What is up, guys? I am Guy Swan, and while we do cover many news items on this show, it has never really been a focus. So it's not uncommon for people to ask me about a situation or an event that I've never really covered on the show because it either didn't feel like it warranted a full episode or there was just no great writing about the event that I felt was worth digging into on the show. And I've always wanted the Bitcoin Audible reads to be more timeless, to be relevant for as long as possible. And so, I felt like it was time for a dedicated series focused entirely on the news and events in the space. And so, I've assembled a group of Bitcoiners who have been in this space for a really long time and who I think each brings something unique and really interesting insight on the news and major events that have happened in the space. Currently, this is planned as a monthly recap of all the major news and events that have happened in the Bitcoin and decentralized world. A one-stop shop for everything that you need to know. And so, I hope you enjoy the first episode of Guy's Roundtable. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the show. This is the first episode of Guy's Roundtable, and I have assembled quite the team. These are all people that I have disagreed with in many different ways on many different topics, but we always have a fascinating discussion when we disagree. So I think this will be a really great base in order to cover a lot of the news items, and I want to go through as many of the news and events that have happened in this space. This will be August 2024, which is not quite the end of August yet. So there may still be a couple of things that happen at the end of the month that get rolled over into the next one. And this will be a little bit more streamlined when we have everything concrete on the back end and how we're doing it and scheduling. So our roundtable right now is myself, Bitcoin Mechanic, my brother, Jeff Swan, and then Steve Jeffress, Simple Steve, who always seems to have a really unique and individual take on things. In fact, that's the whole crew. That's what I love about this crew. And I think you're really going to enjoy this. I had an absolute blast, and I am excited that we can keep this going. I think it's going to be really fun just to have a news-focused event or a news-focused show where we can just go through all of the major news items and just riff and dig into how we think they apply, what we think about them, and give you kind of a one-stop shop, a one place to get a recap of everything that's been going on for the month. And if you want to dig into anything deeper or more specific, that'll be a great way for me to branch off of this with a Guy's Take episode or a read that digs into it more deeply and see what you're interested in hearing more about. So with that, a shout out to CoinKite and the Cold Card hardware wallet for keeping my Bitcoin safe and just making awesome hardware security devices to protect your Bitcoin. I have been an incredibly long time user of all of their tools and their hardware devices and a big fan, and it is just awesome having them support the show. Don't forget my discount code Bitcoin Audible is right down there in the show notes. In the description, you'll find a link. Super easy, super convenient. You are welcome. All right, with that, let's get into it. This is the first episode of Guy's Roundtable. Welcome to the first Roundtable, our news roundup for the month of August, which we're not quite done with August, so who knows what happens in the next 7 days. But we have got Bitcoin Mechanic, Steve uses, is it Steve uses words or Steve using words? Is that your
No, I changed my Twitter name. I'm just Simple Steve now.
Simple Steve. That's right. That's right. Simple Steve.
And then still using words though.
Still using words. And then for some reason, my brother is here, Jeff Swan.
I'm the guy that's listened to more about Bitcoin than anyone you know.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Let's go around the round table here. I don't know what your orientation is. Let's go over Jeff Swan. You're to my right over here. So Jeff Swan, why don't you start? Why are you here?
Because you told me to. I don't know.
That's a
No,
good.
because
that is true.
because
That is a
we've
good
been-
answer.
Off
we've
to a
been
flying start with that.
we've
Well done.
been doing this. We've been doing this Bitcoin thing for a really long time, and so I might have something interesting to say once in a while. I don't know. Probably
Yeah, my
not.
brother got into Bitcoin about an hour before I did.
Yeah, something like that.
2 hours,
like,
maybe?
maybe a half hour. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
You
then
were first, man. That's all that
I
matters.
was
That's all that matters. Second place is second place.
There's no second best.
Ain't first, you're last.
Winning.
You ain't first, your last. That's right.
Mechanic, what is up, man? Thank you for
Hey,
joining
I'm
us.
all right. I'm good. I guess I've been here since 2011, and that's it.
Wait a second. Are we all class of 2011?
I'm class of 2011. Yep.
Yes.
Oh my God! This
Yes,
is the
that's
class of
awesome.
2011. See, I
right.
felt like this is why I knew this was going to do well. These were the guys. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, and I owe it to pre-communist Occupy Wall Street. That was where I found out about.
okay.
That's where I found out about
Hell yeah.
Bitcoin. If you're annoyed about banks getting bailed out, use a money that can't be printed and given to banks. It was the most obvious thing ever. It was like,
See,
okay, I love it.
Made a
Let's
lot
go.
of sense.
Yeah.
Was it people like shit talking Peter Schiff and talking about Bitcoin?
I didn't know who that was yet. I only knew Max Kaiser because I was at the London
Okay.
version of Occupy Wall Street, and him and Stacy were in the building next door to where Occupy London Stock Exchange was, which was the London version of that movement. So they were there, like shilling it. Assange was 2 streets over, locked in a freaking embassy. Well, actually, that happened like slightly after, but he came to Occupy London a couple of times, and
Wow.
so it was just like where everything was, like just people that were collectively pissed off. That was where we all culminated. We stayed at St. Paul's Cathedral in central London, and then the communists showed up 10 minutes later, and it just turned into absolute bullshit. And I was done with it because I knew about Bitcoin by then.
Drum circles.
Yeah, drum circles, people smoking weed, and cops. Like just police, just absolute waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank God we have Bitcoin now.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Roundtable, my man. And lastly, Steve, what is up, my man?
What's up, man? Yeah, I'm just here because you told me to. Also, do you guys think if the "How did you get into Bitcoin" is the worst part of a podcast, no matter what podcast you're listening to?
Yeah, it's
Just
terrible.
to,
Cut that bit out, guy.
to like skip 10 minutes. I did like your story though.
I did not ask the question. I did not ask the question. It was just news to me that we were all class of 2011. I thought that was a fun fact.
I think it does
That is really
depend on
cool.
it does depend on the answer, right? If it's like, yeah, I was a shitcoiner in 2017 and slowly realized
Yeah,
Bitcoin was
yeah,
better.
okay.
That's not like
Yeah.
that's not the most compelling answer, and that
Not
is
the
often.
same.
But yeah,
It's like, oh, great. I only heard that story 100 times.
yeah, right.
Yeah. I think there is a similarity amongst people that got into this basically because they thought it was like the real Occupy Wall Street. Like I got into it for that too. It was just like, fuck the banks. Like, fuck this, like bailout shit. Fuck this. Occupy Wall Street. That shit's never going to work. Like, oh shit, Bitcoin. It's like Occupy Wall Street with like guns. You know, it's like
Well, without
the real
guns,
shit
but,
right
but
here.
something like
Without
that. Yeah.
guns.
Yeah, it was,
Instead of the Occupy Wall Street movement, it's the just replace the bastards.
Yeah.
Cryptographic munitions.
it was the sly roundabout
It's the
way.
sly roundabout way.
It is.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, I think it is like nice to talk about it a fair amount because the price action as well was perfect. Because when Occupy sort of started, it was like September 2011, and that was after that big run up Bitcoin did, where it went above $1 and all the way up to $37, and then crashed back down. Like I missed all that by a hair, and it was just kind of at $5 for like a year and a half until the end of 2012. So there was I wasn't in it for like bull runs or anything. I didn't know about them. It was just kind of this uncensorable medium of exchange that was, unforgeable and peer-to-peer and all that cool stuff. That was it. And then at the end of 2012, I was like, wait, maybe those guys that are going on about it, like going to millions of dollars one day, maybe they're right. like that. And I hadn't really thought about that yet. So, but now like everyone that comes in knows there's been some headline about Bitcoin hitting, $19,000 or $71,000 or whatever. So there's
Guy and I got wrecked in the $30 bull run.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we got so wrecked.
Yeah.
So we
had no money
our
already.
Bitcoin world, and we were living together at the time, and we opened our Bitcoin world with FOMOing every pathetic poor person dollar that we had into Bitcoin, basically at the tippity top, and then just watched it
nuked. $2.
That is
just crushed through the
It
floor.
went from 30 to 2.
yeah, and it stayed there
God.
forever. Like
It did.
I think
we were just like, nope, we're sticking with it. We're sticking with it. So
that was that must have been like, to me, 2022 was the most miserable bear market in Bitcoin's history, but that sounds worse actually.
yeah, no, it was pretty brutal.
So bad, dude. Because we had like a joint savings, and like we were just like putting money together, and we were like, oh, we're gonna invest in something, we're gonna come up with something. Then Bitcoin was this crazy huge.
We had
idea.
taken this options trading class, which was actually like a decent, like he taught a lot of really decent principles about risk management and stuff like that.
I mean, that's really the whole class was about risk management, so that you didn't.
And then you YOLO'd your
idiot.
life savings.
You weren't a degen idiot, and then we were.
But all of our paper trading. So the thing is that all of our paper trading was garbage, because like you find out that, well, the market, after hours can go against you. Like there's all these things. And so it was just like, man, this whole system is rigged.
Right. You need a Bloomberg terminal, and you're driving, steering the wheel 15 minutes after where the car actually is. Right. Like it's
so we were just like, man, screw this. And then we found Bitcoin. It was like, oh, this is it. We're just going to put it all in this. Fuck everything else.
And then literally like 3 or 4 months later, I did the math on like
what did you use? Were you on Mt. Gox?
Yeah. And I figured out why.
That was the red phone purchase, right? That was when
we went to CVS and used a red phone and transferred to Douala and then to Mt. Gox and got fees both times. And then I had like an anonymous trading account in Mt. Gox, and I realized why. So I just got paid back for a small percentage of, like, we pulled everything out, and I didn't know at the time that you could transfer between accounts on Mt. Gox. So I could have just transferred all of my money out to like his account or my other account or something. And I could have, not lost anything. But by the time I figured that out, they were already like stopping withdrawals. And so it got stuck in there, and then I had to verify my account, and I didn't realize I was like, they gave me 5 cents on the dollar for what was in there. And I was like, this is fucked up. And somebody was like, no, you should have gotten, this amount for what you claim to have in there. And it turns out that because my account wasn't verified, I got screwed twice. Because my account wasn't verified until after the fact, they declared me some sort of zombie account. And so like, I'm not a full creditor or something. I'm like a zombie creditor, which gave me like less of a share. I'd say
such bullshit.
Oh, fuck all of that noise. I hate it so much. Yeah. It's just so much. It's a source of so much stress and anger. It's just like, ugh. But all right, now that we've talked about nothing but how we got into Bitcoin, let's talk about the news.
I love that as soon as Steve was like, isn't how people got into Bitcoin the worst part of the show? That's exactly what we went into.
It's your fault, Steve.
Yes, it's your fault.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my fault.
All right.
I'm enjoying it.
Quick,
I'm enjoying
quick
that.
Bitcoin weather report here. So it's block 858,135. The mempool is freaking huge right now, which is hilarious because fees are nothing. So
really,
on time chain calendar, it's 866 of megabytes of 300, and fees are still like 27 cents. It's like 3 sat per V byte is clearing right now.
Somebody said this has to do with like some sort of staking scam that's starting on.
It's cool. Look, let's definitely not start the show like talking about the latest scam. Like I'd prefer to go back to the conversation around origins.
I mean, this is the news.
We might wrap it back. We might wrap back around there. But yeah, fees for like an hour went up to like $90. But that's unimportant because it's just another bullshit scam.
Also,
the price right now is.
Wait, let Steve say something.
Oh, my bad.
Mempools. Can we stop talking about the size of mempools? I don't care how many people want to pay 1 sat per byte. That's like asking like how many people want a car that I can pay $1 for. That number is infinite.
Yeah.
Like, there's
it's a very good point
about the size of the mempool. Like there's the order book of the people that want to pay the most, and like that's the only thing that's important. Like size.
That's a good point. The fee is the only thing that really matters because that even kind of popped into my head is that like the size of the mempool is like I could fill it up right now with 0 fee.
Well, I mean, this is like the annoying. I'm not being a pedant here. There is no mempool. There is no such thing as the mempool. It's the idea that there would be a cohesive vision about what is ending up in the next block is centralization and is a complete invalidation of the blockchain as a concept. Like really.
Since I have such opinionated sons of bitches here, I'll just remove this from. We don't need to have mempool anymore. We will take that out. I like that. All right.
Yeah. You can talk about your mempool, and if it's full of junk, that's on you. Like
if you're not using filters, that's your fault.
But you are using filters unless you're running Libra Relay, which also has filters, and you know what's really funny? Like for weather report stuff, the new, I can't explain exactly how it works yet, but the cluster mempool thing that Gloria was championing and just pushed her into core is a new bespoke mempool filter that they're expecting everyone using core to use. Which is super ironic to me, given the past year we've had of people like trying to equate mempool filtration with censorship and act like they're naively the same thing. So
there's just official. It's different.
I don't know if you or Guy, somebody somewhere was saying that like the whole Bitcoin system is a fucking filter. Like this is literally what
that's the whole thing. That's all it does is all it does is define everything in Bitcoin by being psychotic about what's allowed in.
Yeah, it's the most.
That is, if you want to describe what it is, that's what it is. It's just a giant set of rules about what is allowed and what isn't.
Yeah, and it's the hardest set of rules ever to circumnavigate because you have to overcome Michael Saylor's wall of energy, right? You have to literally outmine everyone to do it, or you have to literally overpower the nodes and become a dominant new version of what it is. So, like, trying to define any restriction that's placed on you by that network as censorship makes it the world's most efficient censorship engine that's ever existed.
So is Dark Skippy a problem?
We're not getting to Dark Skippy yet. We're not done with the weather
thing
report.
On the list.
I know it's the first thing on the list. I know it's the first thing, but you gotta wait. You gotta calm down. Price
we haven't even gotten to the list yet.
63,700, right on the way to 58K, where it will be forever and always because 58K is destiny. And we got 605 exahash on the network. That's our energy wall. It went down 4% last difficulty adjustment, and it will difficult adjust expected 5% increase at the end of the month. So I will probably. It might be a good time to turn on some miners before the difficulty adjustment goes up. But I don't think I'll have mine hooked back up. I still haven't turned mine on since
it's still hot there.
I said I was going to put it on ocean. No, it's been cool at night. It's been really nice. It's almost, we're getting close. We're getting close to miner weather.
Do you think Bitcoin is still at 58K right now? It's just inflation adjusting itself?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
I think that's the new cope for 58K gang.
Yeah, the code for 58K.
Like whatever the purchasing power of 58K was, Bitcoin will stay at that forever. Like
forever.
Just like how a chicken sandwich is still the same amount of grams of gold as it was 100 years ago. Like,
I wouldn't even be that upset about that. There would be something really poetic about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so news items. So first we have got Dark Skippy, which Jeff has already ruined. But we're getting right into it. So Dark Skippy, first off, did anybody else hear about Dark Skippy?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dark Skippy is an exploit, which is a malicious firmware. The video that I saw that executed this was with a seed signer, but as I understand it, this could be essentially any hardware wallet. I'm sure it just has to be modified, but it's a method of installing malicious firmware that makes it so that you can actually sign, when you sign transactions, it purposefully creates a watermark in the signature and exposes key information or information about your key, so that all you have to do is do two signatures. And that can just be a 2-input transaction. So if you just use 2 different inputs in order to make your transaction, they can just watch the blockchain for your signature, recognize it, and then pull your seed phrase. And
sounds
this
very
is
unlikely.
basically, it's also not easy to detect. And there was kind of a lot of people talking about how like this was terrible. I think somebody was kind of getting on him about like, why are you pointing out seed signer or something, general drama around it. But what are your thoughts about the risk of this? Like I've even heard people say that like, hardware wallets aren't that safe, and it's not even necessary that you should use them sometimes, which just seems bonkers to me. But I don't know. What are your thoughts about it? Let's go to Mechanic now that we've switched the order here in the thing. Mechanic.
I've got strong opinions on this stuff. So this has been known about for a while. It's one of the reasons that you don't see core developers using hardware wallets, while you see like influencers talking about hardware wallets. And interestingly, the sort of Venn diagram merge point of that is what Blockstream have with Jade, which is the one that didn't have this exploit, right? It has prevention. Mm-hmm. It has some sort of protection against it, though I wouldn't claim to understand how it works. Whereas things like Cold Card and Trezor and stuff don't. And it did, like, I like Cold Card. I'm a fan of NVK. His attitude when arguing with Blue Matt over it did seem a little flippant, in my opinion. I don't think it's like some crypto nerd imagination thing versus the $5 wrench attack. It is a real thing. And it basically tricks you into yelling your private key at the entire network for everyone to just pick up on. It's pretty nasty. And it does seem like you can mitigate the attack. So I think that needs to be done. But it's a political division. Unfortunately, it's gone down the lines, and there's a political divide between these two factions. And the side that is turning a blind, nonchalant eye to this attack that I usually side with are right more generally when it comes to general purpose computing being used to store your private keys versus hardware wallets. Because all of the core devs, Greg, Luke, probably Blue Matt, will all speak out against hardware wallets and say just use a general purpose laptop. And one of their arguments for that, and one of their rationales for that, is supply chain attacks, right? Like there's nothing more targetable by intelligence agencies or bad actors or whatever than like where they manufacture the Trezor or the Cold Card stuff. Like the last thing you want is something that is only for storing Bitcoin, right? That's the first place they go and attack it. Whereas like some old Dell laptop from, 2006 or something, it's not going to have anything related to Bitcoin on it, right? But I think this is like just core developers just being, I don't know what the word is. I think it's like stupid to make jokes about autism and stuff. I don't even think it's accurate. It's like some sort of just complete inability to understand how things are for normal people. And I just think telling people to, like, if you're going to go with like there's bad in every situation, right? There's problems with hardware wallets. There's problems with using general purpose computers that wouldn't be targeted in supply chain attacks, but are way more prone to just other viruses and exploits.
Yeah, the surface area is just amazing. It's not even comparable.
And then, and also just like backdoored Intel CPUs that we know are backdoored, right? And then you have phones as well, which are kind of one of the most secure ways to keep Bitcoin, funnily enough. Like I dare say if I had just like a stock Android, downloaded some Bitcoin wallet off the Play Store and sent like 100 grand worth of Bitcoin to it, I'm 99% sure no one would be able to get it off, which is crazy, right? It's everything about it is bad on paper, but I'm pretty sure no one would be able to get it off. But we know there's holes there as well. So I think it's all just, I find it quite unrealistic when, Greg said never use a hardware wallet. Luke refuses to use a hardware wallet. Blue Matt in the thread about this exact topic said just use a computer or a laptop. It's better than using something that doesn't have a protection against this, like the cold card and all that. Just use a laptop. I think that's ridiculous advice, personally. I don't think anyone should be storing Bitcoins on laptops. We used to have to do it that way, and it was terrifying. So no thanks.
I think one of the things that you point out, the issue with using, yes, you can, it does make more sense purely from the attack vector, is that obviously a hardware wallet is something that if you attack, you're going to get Bitcoin at the other end of it because it's only got that one use. But you have to understand the security implications and the nuances of hardware wallets to be able to use a general purpose computer to keep your Bitcoin safe. You have to already understand all of that. And like you say, the practicality of the normal person's situation, they're not going to use a general purpose computer intelligently. They're going to, if you tell them hardware wallets are not safe because if you know all of the ins and outs and all of the intricacies and how keys work and how hardware wallets work and the firmware and all of that shit, that you could do a general purpose computer better. Well, you're talking about 0.001% of the world. So you're talking to nobody.
Yeah, they're going to end up installing a wallet. They're going to end up installing a wallet on a Windows computer, and
they're just going to put Exodus wallet because they can trade shitcoins on it, and then they're going to put their life savings into it, and they're going to, do an email that says it's like, oh, support says that your seed phrase is in danger, and if you just send it to us really quick, we'll keep it safe and we'll update your wallet for you, and they'll just do that.
It's horrible, man. Like, have you seen your average grandma's Windows laptop? Just the idea that you have to give them a Trezor. You have to give them something that's basically idiot proof. And I've seen these guys mess up with Trezors too. And it sucks.
Steve,
I feel like
how do you keep your Bitcoin?
I missed this, but I feel like when people talk about this tech, most of the people listening are like, what the fuck? Is my cold card broken now? People, they're like, tell me. So I think we should say to people, in order for this attack to happen to you, you would have to install some new firmware on your cold card or on your Trezor. And this isn't something that just happens to your hardware wallet without you doing anything. So
Are you sure about that? Because I'm not sure that's accurate. I think what actually happens is it's the software side where you construct the transaction that's malicious, and then the cold card signs it without knowing that it's a bad thing that it's signing.
Everything that I have read about this was specifically about firmware on the device. You have to have a malicious hardware wallet with malicious firmware, and that the firmware check. So if you get your cold card has the two verify words or something at the beginning. That's your firmware check, and then a bunch of other ones will just have a hash and see make sure that this is the firmware right. The firmware check is right. If that is ever incorrect and it's not what you're supposed to see, then that means you're not looking at the right firmware. But it is specifically, at least for everything that I dug into, it was firmware specific.
That's not the two words on the cold card. That's to make sure you're not typing in your.
Oh, is that your PIN verified?
It's not a PIN. It's to make it so that you're not. Someone hasn't. It's the evil maid attack where they put a different cold card in your safe and you pick it up and you turn it on and type in your PIN and it grabs it.
Oh, okay. So I thought that was a firmware check. My bad.
I don't believe so.
Okay. I could totally be wrong about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was listening to the Stefan Livera when they had those guys on talk about it, and the attack is replacing the nonce. That's part, not like the mining nonce, but there's a nonce that's a part of the ECDSA and the Schnorr signature thing. So when you sign your transaction, you're using your private key, but you're also using a very large random number that needs to be a different random number every time. If you use the same number for this extra nonce that goes into each signature, people can actually like reverse engineer your private keys. And they've done that before when people have used the same nonce in their transaction signing. So this attack is just, it's not just using the same nonce every time. It's actually using like a smart same nonce every time, which makes it even easier to extract it. So I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that nonce procedure is happening on the cold card
only
itself.
on the device.
I think you're right. Yeah, sorry for jumping in there.
Yeah.
So don't freak out. Like you'd have to install new firmware on your device, but I never install new firmware.
And or somebody has to have physical access to your device in order to force install on it. Like,
all right. So how many people do you think that have cold cards out there verified the firmware on it?
Well,
1%.
It's on the little like construction thing. Like if it turns up wrong or whatnot.
No. I mean, I don't mean that. That means that they're telling you that it didn't get messed with in transit, but that doesn't mean that what they put on it in the first place isn't malicious. So
gotcha.
I'm talking about you go to the GitHub, you download the whole thing, and you run all the checksums, and you download, NVK's
Of course, I did that.
GPG key. You compare what the binary does. I'm glad you did it, but I ran a cold card for years without doing that because I didn't know how. And then I've started doing all this stuff lately.
I didn't do it.
No, right. Well, do it. You can't use a cold card that doesn't have firmware you didn't put on it. That's not kosher. You can't be doing that. You have to download the firmware and verify that it is what it's supposed to be. Otherwise, that is literally how this attack would happen.
Right.
It's actually not a bad idea. I actually really should. I'm a little reckless with and it's mostly just because I have so many damn cold cards. It would be a good thing to add to my ritual.
NVK could still have malicious hardware from like day one, and he could just retire and disappear and just have everybody.
NVK is gonna rug pull everybody.
That would be rough.
Well, yeah. Is it still vulnerable if multisig is used? Like if you have one bad.
I thought about that too. I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
I think not.
Yeah, I think you would specifically, even if that signature, because you're combining the signatures, which means it's a joint key. So you would still have, I wonder if you could even get the individual key if you didn't just have the individual signature, like, because the other two keys would basically mix in such a way.
So if you add a Jade into your
multi-sig for the win,
multi-sig mix, you're good.
Yeah. Probably.
Jade is.
This
probably
is based on no information. This is
Jade is. I think Jade is like an unsung hero here. I never wanted to use it because I was given one, and when I'm given a hardware wallet, I just don't trust it. But like it's just awful looking as well. It just looks like such a piece of Lego that I just can't deal with it. So
it's really smooth. Like the interaction with the phone is really nice. Like it's super easy.
Yeah, I just don't want to use Blockstream Green's software wallet because it's one of those ones that's like, oh, fine, we'll let you use your own Electrum server if you want, and we won't give you any indication that is actually what we're connected to. Like, so that means no privacy. Like, for me, it's like I'm a Spectre wallet maxi because it would only work if you had a node underneath it, and it just wouldn't work otherwise. Which I'm like, that's how a wallet should be designed. It shouldn't be like Electrum, which will just work even if you don't have a node. Like that's completely wrong. Like default behavior needs to force you to do the absolute best practices. Otherwise, no one will ever.
I'm a Spectre guy too.
Spectre's great.
People like Sparrow better, but I kind of like Spectre.
I love Spectre, but I'd go all mobile. I end up doing all nunchuck.
I need to check out nunchuck. People
I fucking love nunchuck.
Yeah, me too.
I love nunchuck. Let's go to the next item since we're halfway through and one item down.
Wait, Jeff didn't do his take on it.
Wait, nobody cares about Jeff's take on it.
I don't give a shit.
He gave a point. He
I brought it up.
He brought it up.
I didn't have anything to contribute, so I asked you people.
The most important thing that you can do in order to secure your Bitcoin and know that you own it is to take it off the exchange to withdraw it and use a reliable, secure hardware wallet. This is the Cold Card hardware wallet made by CoinKite. This device can be entirely air-gapped from start to finish. CoinKite has designed everything about this device to be as secure as possible, even in those edge case scenarios. And there's so many additional features like the Brick Me pin, the Dummy pin, and even all the features you need for complex multi-sig and to use multiple wallets and devices together. But if you don't want any of that complication or any of those advanced features, you don't need to use any of it, and you can just use the cold card to keep your keys safe and know that your Bitcoin is secure. And the thing I love most about this is that I can enable NFC and I can just tap to pay. I set up my transaction and my wallet on this phone, and then whenever I want to send anything, all I have to do is tap, send the transaction to my cold card, I sign it, and then I tap, send it back, and broadcast. That's it. I'm able to get hardware wallet security for my phone. If you haven't gotten a cold card yet or checked out the Cold Card Q, their new device with a larger screen that can communicate by QR code and has an entire QWERTY keyboard on it, you definitely need to. The details will all be right in the show notes, as well as my discount code, Bitcoin Audible. Protect your keys and get yourself a cold card. Next item on the list. Inflation milestone. I got this headline from CNN. Consumer price index slows below 3% for the first time since March 2021. Quote, this paves the way for the Federal Reserve to cut rates next month after a years-long battle with inflation that sent rates spiking to a 23-year high. America's economy is showing signs of stress, and now that inflation appears under control, the Fed can reduce borrowing costs to try to get job growth booming again.
Man, this reminds me of like when we went on a family holiday to Cuba when I was a kid, and there was like a newspaper on one of the buses, and my dad was like, check this out. Like, here's what it's going to say. It's going to be like, Brazil is going to elect a communist next month. America is making moves towards communism next month. Like, it's just going to be a bunch of absolute made up shit that's just like government given to them. So now they're just like inventing CPI numbers like, oh, we've got inflation under control and that's why we're cutting rates and all that. It's nothing to do with the election. We don't just
they clearly invented the employment numbers too. So
it's just total bullshit. Like they're not even, it's just, they're lying. They know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, and et cetera, et cetera.
And they're still lying.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm not sure I want to do this show if we're going to talk about fiat news.
Yeah, no.
You want to talk about fiat news? Did I ruin this? Did I ruin it already?
This is a Bitcoin news round.
Steve's angry about the fiat.
You people are so opinionated.
Okay. Proton wallet.
That's fine. That was an easy. I was giving you a softie. I was just giving you a softie for some good jabs. That's the whole point of this one.
Yeah,
I like that. That the theory of like information from far away is only spread through money. Like the signal theory of monetary communications. Like if you're hearing information from far away, it's just super noisy. Like you can only get real information through prices, through the price signal. Nobody knows anything about anything happening far away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that's the whole point. That's the whole problem of economics is there's an incalculable amount of information that the price signal is the only thing that can actually translate.
And that's what sucks about clown world economics, because it distorts that and gets rid of that one reliable mechanism.
Exactly.
And thus we become
shitcoiners. It turns everyone into a shitcoiner.
It turns the whole world into a shitcoin farm.
Well, it has to. Like, everyone is buying crap, like, because they have no alternative. If you can't use the money to store value, everything else becomes a store of value, and it becomes a gambling economy, and it's just retarded. Like, it's literally, it couldn't be more obvious to me. And it's crept into Bitcoin in the most annoying way. Like, Bitcoin mining is just a giant shitcoin casino, the same way shitcoins are. Like, a lot of people that don't go the crypto route will go the mining route instead. And it's just like, when you're just a normal hodling Bitcoiner, you look at Bitcoin and you're like, oh, whatever, I'll just buy Bitcoin and that's fine. And one day you might be like, maybe I should get into mining, and you run the numbers and you're like, nope, I'm just going to get more sats if I just straight up buy more sats right now. Like, it'll cost me $4,000 for an S21. That's X amount of sats. I will never mine that. Even if I have like next to free electricity, no, I'm not going to do it. But there's a like shitcoin mentality. People will come to it, and a lot of investors will invest in companies that do this stuff. And it's really annoying because it means they mine, and it means the the difficulty of the network shoots up and makes it more and more difficult for anyone that could mine in an economically rational fashion. So right now, like, just this is where I've been at for like the last 8 months, right? Since Ocean launched, is getting into the mining ecosystem and just being like, wow, I've never thought of it that way. Like an ant miner is a shitcoin. It's just physical, but it's basically just a shitcoin. It's never going to get as many sats as it cost you, which is exactly the same as like trying to go long on Dogecoin just to try and get more sats than you would. Like, it's the same exact thing.
You're always just going to lose money.
Yeah, it's been really weird looking at it. And I'm like, I try to dip my toes in it just to sort of get some skin in the game in mining. And I'm like, yeah, this has been a complete fail. Like, I should have just never bought a single miner, because it's just...
So the difference would be like, you could at the bottom of a market, hold on, at the bottom of the market, leverage a little bit of your Bitcoin, get fiat, buy miners.
Buy Bitcoin. You just buy Bitcoin.
Well, that's true.
You just buy Bitcoin.
But the thing is if you have, well, yeah, you're right.
So here it is. It's the prisoner's dilemma thing about
privacy.
It. The minute it becomes economically rational to do anything like that, like you'd actually get more sats doing that than you would just buying sats. Everyone has to not overstep that boundary, because the minute one person goes a bit degenerate, the network difficulty goes up and now you're making less sats. So everyone just dies together. Like, it's the prisoner's dilemma of it. It's not like gold mining where you just have to go and find gold somewhere. The difficulty adjustment is brutal. Like, if one guy is being economically irrational, mining and losing loads of money, and you've seen Mara and Riot's numbers, right? They lost $500 million last quarter between the two of them. And that's like that, and they just carry on getting investment from money printer that somehow is like 2 hops away from them somehow. And there's all these investors that are probably in, you know, Ethereum's ETF and all that garbage as well, because they have no idea what they're doing. So it's just, it creeps in. The difficulty is the highest it's ever been while the US dollar price is falling and falling. And it's like, this is clown world economics, and it doesn't make any kind of, it's not cognate at all with how like the game theory is supposed to make mining work. Like, if people are mining and losing hundreds of millions of dollars a month doing it, then no, that's not censorship resistant. That's not anything. Like, that's completely farcical. That's a shitcoin casino, man.
Dude, the entire fiat financing apparatus literally seems to be some sort of a contraption, some system to literally just destroy real resources and continue to cover it up with next year's financing.
Yeah.
Like it's just this spinning wheel that just perpetually covers up real losses with nominal gains. What's the guy who does Comma AI? Famous for
GeoHots.
Yes, HOTS. Was talking about it's like Zune or whatever, the one that's like trying to make AI self-driving cars or whatever. And they've got like all these sensors and like spinning shit on top of the car. And they're making their own like crazy custom vehicle and all of this stuff. They raised $990 million, $1 billion. And he's like, they have nothing to show for it. They're almost out of money and they have nothing. They cannot put a single car on the road that is auto self-driving. And he's like, I don't know how you live with yourself. I did it for like $50. I did it with a smartphone and I do it better than they can. And it's compatible with every car since 2018. You know, It's just absolutely wild. Like the whole fiat world makes no sense. And it has totally creeped into the financialization of mining.
Jimmy Song wrote an article called Postmodern Investing, and he goes into like how stuff doesn't need to have any sort of logical reason for you to invest in it. Like Dogecoin, great example. It's just like meme economy stuff. Just like
that's a great description.
Yeah.
Postmodern.
Right? No, I was just thinking that's a great title.
Yeah.
This might be too soon, but is there a joke about Swan in here somewhere?
Well, let's do the Swan topic next.
Yes, where's the Swan topic? Hold on a second. So they did.
I hear you.
I didn't know they canceled Pacific Bitcoin. I knew.
Yeah, they
okay,
did.
so
they did cut fat. They cut across the board. So
those
Swan
guys had such a rough time that I heard you guys had to change your last name. Is that right?
Yes, that's what happened. That is what happened.
We're still, the process is still going through, but you know, that's not supposed to be public information.
Are you in a sort of legal thing where you're trying to claim that the extra N makes you exempt from having to do it?
Yes.
Yes,
right,
for sure.
I defer you to my lawyer. I am not allowed to make any public comments on this issue. So Swan announced the termination of its managed mining business. They're delaying the IPO plans, and they have had tons of cuts of staff, and then canceled Pacific Bitcoin, all their sponsorships and stuff like that. So, and what's funny is a lot of people talked about like, oh, they're getting into mining. This is going to be bad. Like a bunch of people predicted that was going to be the case. As I understand it, I don't know what information I'm allowed to make public, but I talked with, I love a ton of the guys over at Swan, like they're friends. As I heard the details is that they basically made a division of Swan all about pulling together mining projects and getting people to set up mining in a bunch of different areas. And they had a contract, they were putting together a contract with another company. And as they have made all of this investment, when it came time to sign the contract, they said, no, we're not sure about this. And everything fell apart. And within like 2 days, they were like, so all of this revenue that we thought that we were now putting on, like, this is how this is going to go. These are our costs. This is all of their calculations just went out the window when it was like, suddenly this contract doesn't exist anymore, or at least we can't rely on this contract. Maybe it still happens. And they were like, they went into emergency mode and then just cut everything.
They cut the company back to like what it was 9 months ago or whatever before
they literally just
the
chop and block to everything before it even started. Yeah. Thoughts?
I mean, hopefully they're just going back. They were making money before, right? I think it seems like they'll probably be fine. So
yeah, and I guess I'll just say that I don't. We've had some dealings with them as Ocean. It never really like got to any sort of big point. And I think that's probably, people can probably connect the dots between what you're saying and what happened there, right? So there was a lot of potential that I think just didn't pan out. And the details of that are kind of all, just boring stuff to do with probably a lot of paperwork going back and forth and things that might happen. And when you're in these environments, there's just a lot in limbo constantly, right? And you have to make decisions at some point. Like, okay, are we going to hire this guy? Are we not going to hire that guy? Like, this is probably going to happen, so we can probably base stuff on that. And I think it's just one of those things where it was like, all right, it didn't go the way we'd hoped, and now we have to make some difficult decisions, but they made them. And like, this was like something, there's some chess playing wisdom here. I don't know what grandmaster it was, but he's like, the best sign of like a terrible chess player is that when there's an awful move that has to be made, they keep not making it because they don't want to accept that they're in a bad position and they just need to lose a piece. Like they just, whereas a great player will just say, this piece is dead. I accept that it's dead. I need to just try and move on. I need to make the bad move, right? So I think that really speaks to their maturity as a company, just to go, we're in a shitty situation here, rip the Band-Aid off, and they just did it. So I think I'm kind of impressed with that. Like, it's not, I think there are other players in the industry, like, the Mt. Gox kinds of attitudes where they'll just pretend things are okay for ages and try and limp along and try and sort of solve things. And then, they end up mega wrecked. So, and I don't understand a lot of the hate for Swan. I think there's like a lot of people were like, they're doing badly. And I never understood the hate for Swan. I've got to say,
it's easy drama.
But it's like the shitcoin,
somehow it just became fun. And I think it's because Corey's so like
there's so many. There's Binance. There's Brian Armstrong. There's like Kraken. Like there's
for
what's
real,
wrong
Brian
with Swan?
Somebody attack Coinbase, because that is not
the fact that Swan gets more shit than Coinbase is
ridiculous.
Is quite entertaining.
That's
for
true.
like just wild.
And there's also River that are kind of similar to Swan, right? And they actually get no drama at all. They're just another
somehow
US.
River is just like totally drama free. It's great.
Yeah.
They are.
Tell the story about your contractor and Coinbase.
Oh God. Well, first I want to say is like that's actually this. I love that you brought up the whole chess move thing because that's like a great analogy. And my concern would be if they tried to pretend that there wasn't a problem, right? And a number of people came to me, is there something I have to worry about? I signed up with Swan or whatever, and during the dip or whatever, I bought a bunch of crap on Swan. Like I still just use Swan. And I was like, no, let me tell you, this is kind of my thinking on this is that, apparently within days of them realizing that this contract wasn't going to go through, they cut everything that they couldn't afford. It's like FTX didn't do that. They couldn't afford 70% of their company, and they proceeded to not cut anything until to appear as if they were still exploding in growth and everything was fine for like a year and a half. And it may be at the very beginning of it, if they had just cut everything, they would have survived. They would have been fine. Like you have to make the crappy decision in order to keep the thing alive. So honestly, the huge firing of everybody that they couldn't afford seems to me like, okay, well, yeah, Swan will make it through this.
It's low time preference, man. It's embarrassing in the short term, but it's what you got to do to actually survive and not run a complete scam of an entity like FTX did.
Normies need stepping stones. Like, I didn't become an anarchist overnight. Like, I needed Milton Friedman to get me, like part of the way there, right? And so it's the same way. Like, you need an easy, trustworthy place to send normies to get Bitcoin, where this not going to put shitcoins in their face. It's not going to like this. There's a good education, like they've got a bunch. The Swan canon is great. Like, it tells them that they need to get their shit off of the exchange, like off of Swan. So I can't think of a much better place than that, for directing new people.
There are a handful of like good Bitcoin only companies, and like I just only send people to those. Like I can't, like my contractor. We talked about it. There you go, Bisq.
I'm still shilling Bisq.
Bisq is great. But my contractor, short version of the story is we talk about Bitcoin a lot, and then he was finally like, all right, I should get some. And I told him to go to Swan. I told him Swan, River, both great options, really easy to use, and he went to Coinbase because Coinbase is well known, and he heard about it on the news. And they proceeded to, within moments of signing up, they told him to buy Rallycoin, I think. And so he bought $2,000 worth of Rallycoin, and then a month later they delisted it, and Rallycoin was plummeting in price. And it was stuck on there, and he didn't know what to do with it. He had no idea he didn't have a wallet. He didn't have to do anything, and he lost all his money.
They delisted it, so he can't sell it.
He can't sell it.
They promoted something that he can't get rid of. That's
just
criminal. Like, I don't
jackass.
I don't even know. I don't know what else to call it.
I don't know how you call that anything but a scam. But anyway.
I'll take kind of the devil's advocate position here.
I would love the devil's advocate. Give me the devil's advocate, Steve.
I think you're right. Like, Swan's great, and like Coinbase, I mean, that Swan gets more shit than Coinbase is retarded. I agree with that. But when I compare Swan to kind of other places to buy Bitcoin, like Cash App or River or Strike, I see Swan having a million times more employees, but I don't see any aspect of their product that's better than River or Cash App or Strike. I mean, I'm not like a mega millionaire. I don't do the white glove service, and that's where I think maybe Swan could outcompete these other places. Like, but Unchained has a really good white glove service, and I imagine River does too. So what exactly is Swan doing better than these 5 other places? And like, is that where's their income going to come from?
I have a hard time.
I don't know how to compare the companies because I don't really know about employee size.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing they have more employees than Cash App, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, maybe if you compare just their Bitcoin divisions, like Cash App does a lot more than just Bitcoin, obviously. Yeah. Granted, their Bitcoin side is like a gargantuan amount of their revenue. So,
Yeah. I don't hate them, but I just don't know what they're doing very well.
I actually appreciate one thing Corey did a lot. Like, he was trashing Mashinsky and a lot of other scammers before their respective scams blew up.
Dude, stuff.
I know there are, like, he was telling people you'll get free premium Swan service, whatever it is. I'm not in the US, right? So I don't actually know what any of these products are. But like, a lot of people closed their Celsius, accounts, right? And they did that because he was just constantly trashing them, and then they did collapse. So, and I think he was going after, what was that Doquan stable coin that blew up? What was that one?
Yeah, Luna.
Terra Luna, right?
Luna, yeah.
Right, I think he was going after.
He went after them really hard. Yeah, I really think that's what it is that he involves himself in the drama so much, and that people hate people who are right about something, and obviously it sounds super arrogant for him to just like trash people. So you just invite people to trash you back, and then everybody enjoys it.
I think that's what it is. Like, River aren't out there taking moral positions on things. Yeah. Like, they're not public like that. So if you
River's just doing their business,
But like, if you attract the hatred, like, this is a thing with Tether that I always found funny.
But Corey was right. We should reiterate, he was right. So
not
round of applause.
Not about the mining managing part of things, but about all the shitcoins he was trashing. I mean, that's not that hard.
That's all not hard to be right,
all the shitcoins are shit.
Yeah, true. I mean, I just think, you can get yourself in trouble by being public and taking positions on things. And I agree with the positions he took on stuff. So, and I think he actually made a lot of people not lose a lot of money on scam coins. So, yeah, I appreciate you reiterating that, Jeff. It was a good thing for him to do, and it makes me appreciate the guy. And also, like, there's been like a lot of drama between Ocean and Bitcoin Magazine people, right? Because of, they're like the complete champions of scams coming into the Bitcoin space and operating on Bitcoin natively rather than on Ethereum or something. And they're presenting that as some kind of good thing, a la Brian Armstrong circa 2017. I do. I maybe have a strong opinion on it. But I mean, also Swan and Corey and those guys were also, taking the position that we had as well on that, which, makes me appreciate them and just go, yeah, these guys they're not trying to rebuild every single ETH scam on top of Bitcoin and then pretend it's somehow not a scam anymore because it's on Bitcoin. Like, it's not just a scam to do that. It's actually worse. Like, I really, really wanted those scams to stay over on Ethereum and just leave us alone. And when they come over here, they start advocating for opcodes and stuff inside Bitcoin. Like, I don't want these guys around. Like, they're not, Giacomo's been killing it lately with the, defending the political aspect of what happens with forks, pointing out that Segwit 2x was mostly a political objection. Like, we wanted Segwit, and we also did double the block size in Segwit when we did it as a soft fork. Like, it was nothing that egregious about Segwit 2x. It was just the people proposing it were a bunch of corporate assholes that like decided what Bitcoin should be in a private room in New York, and we're never going to allow
Giacomo to the round.
Yeah, we should. Like, the idea that you could just like have a precedent be set that you can upgrade Bitcoin because a few people that run a Bitcoin exchange decided it's going to change. So it doesn't matter what the idea is. No, like, and people are like, well, why don't you discuss the technical merits? And he's like, because it's not actually relevant. Like, of course they're going to come up with a good idea because that's how you get your foot in the door. Like, if you want to attack Bitcoin and you want to take over its governance, the first thing you propose is a good idea that everyone can accept. And then they do that, and then you've set the precedent. So the next bad idea, everyone goes, well, we've already done it. We trust these guys now. So that's politics, right? Like, and it's really naive not to talk about that stuff and to pretend it's all just technical.
I've had some conversations with some ETH people lately, and accidentally mostly. And
gross.
And they don't.
It was an accident, like crazy. Man. Don't hold it against them.
It's crazy how like they don't even understand. Like, they don't understand. They have the completely different framing. Like, they're like, well, this is like blockchain governance or whatever. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, what you're like, they're giving up the whole game. They don't understand that triple entry accounting doesn't work if you don't have the entire, like the entire history. That Byzantine generals problem isn't even probabilistically solved if you don't have something to tie it to, reality. Like, it's not.
They think blockchain democracy sounds like a good idea.
Literally, that is, yeah.
These people have no idea what they're doing. They're just starting ass backwards with every single thing they're trying to do. Like, if you start with a blockchain to do these complicated features and running DAOs and things like that, you're doing the exact opposite approach than what you need to do. Like, it's centralized by design. It's only going to get worse if it gets adopted. So stop trying to be decentralized. That's the exact opposite of what you're aiming for.
What was it, H.L. Mencken that said, democracy truly is the spirit of the people. And if you have it instituted for long enough, eventually a true and honest representative of the people will be in power, and you'll finally have a president who is an absolute total dumbass.
Yeah. Well, it's idiocracy, man. I think. Yeah.
So Proton Wallet.
Kamala, and what we're aiming for with U.S. politics is just that, right?
It's so bad.
Trudeau is like a lot of Canadians like Trudeau, right? And he's just an idiot. He's an actual idiot. Like,
he's actually on stage talking about how he was like dyslexic and like he's like literally retarded and like couldn't do math and like it's crazy to watch this speech where he's like admitting that he's an idiot and like I'm like he's not even lying, like
this is getting banned off YouTube because you insulted dyslexic people.
Yeah.
Well, dyslexia is there are smart people that are start off as dyslexic and get over their issues, but like really like well, it is an issue. You're reversing things. I was getting like.
But you look at Bukele, man. Look at Bukele, and he actually is a genuinely clever guy that has like an ability to make a plan and like think through how it will turn out.
The tyrant.
No, there's something to listen to when he speaks.
Yeah.
There is substance behind his.
Yeah, I'm not even saying like you could hate him and like buy the whole line that he's an authoritarian dictator if you want, but he's still not an idiot. Is my point. Yeah. He actually can think through a thing. Like he could solve a Sudoku. Like George Bush couldn't do that. George Bush could not solve a Sudoku.
Nobody we've had in quite some time could solve a Sudoku, possibly.
I have trouble with Sudoku.
The difference between RFK and Trump it was like the speeches at the Bitcoin conference or whatever. It's like night and day. Like RFK clearly understands like what Bitcoin is and is like, Trump had no idea. He's like,
all the other things you're playing with,
and all the other things you're playing with. Yeah.
Did you hear about my Michigan rally was super big? Did y'all hear about that?
What about the staple coins?
It was the biggest rally we've ever had in Michigan.
There you go. I need
what's the
a
next
better
topic?
impression than that.
I'm sorry. I have to go in like 10 minutes, so we should probably try and stop.
Proton Wallet.
Okay.
I'm
skipping Proton Wallet.
Why?
We're skipping because I did a whole show on Proton Wallet. We don't need to talk about Proton Wallet. It's cool
Listen
that they're
to
doing a
the show.
non-custodial thing. You should just listen to that episode. So Russia, they still have domestic cryptocurrency bans. So you can't use Bitcoin or cryptocurrency domestically. However, they have recently legalized Bitcoin for international trade explicitly to bypass Western sanctions. That's interesting. That is interesting. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's happening any day soon, but
I always like it when they're openly hypocrites like that. Like we will not allow you to engage in freedom of economic activity at all, but we're going to allow ourselves to do it. Like, wonderful. Congratulations on this.
Amazing.
And also, but this is great. This is absolutely fantastic. I like illegal Bitcoin. It is my favorite kind of Bitcoin. It is a kind of Bitcoin where you no longer have
strong Bitcoin.
It's return. Like it's my contention lately that money must be fungible. It's the most fundamental characteristic of money. And you can have stuff that becomes more valuable because it isn't fungible, but then becomes useless as money. Like, great example is out of circulation ancient currencies like the sestertii and things like that. Like, every single one will be worth a different amount because they're from a different year, and some is rarer than others. Like, they still actually have value, but if you want to try and use them, you're going to be bartering because you have to give each one its own individual value, which is why, when it comes to spam on Bitcoin, all the different flavors of it, ordinals were the worst because it was trying to directly attack fungibility by saying you can actually identify individual sats or Bitcoins, and some can be more valuable than others. And the minute you put a heuristic on top of a money that says it's not all equal, one Bitcoin does not equal one Bitcoin, you ruin a fundamental aspect of its moneyness. And you can always do that. There's nothing to stop people putting tertiary systems on top of Bitcoin. And that's what KYC is, which is why every Bitcoiner has a KYC stash and a non-KYC stash, which is horrible. And the only way you actually stop people doing that is you elect Ron Paul or you elect a complete tyrant. Those are the only two extremes where you can have one or the other. You need freedom or you need complete tyranny. The minute you have like this regulated, cucked Bitcoin where you're sort of allowed to do certain things with it, that's when everything falls apart and centralizes, in my opinion. So I really like it when countries like Russia do stupid stuff like that, like just make it illegal. Because any smart Russian can run a node anyway, and they can carry on conducting activities in Bitcoin, but there's no longer any reporting requirements. There's no longer a separate KYC stash. None of that crap happens, and they have to run a node and they have to do it all, with best practices. So I celebrate it. And if the government as well is also going to use it to get around red tape that's been put like a weaponized US dollar system, that to me is just like elegant. And that when people talk about Bitcoin game theory playing out, that's what I mean. That's what I like.
Bitcoin game theory.
Yeah,
that's exactly
love
right.
it.
So you oppose the Bitcoin reserve legislation?
I do, man. I oppose every single element of what Donald Trump would bring to Bitcoin.
Just for the note, for anybody who doesn't know, Senator Lummis proposed a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and they actually have a Bitcoin bill, and they've introduced this. The legislation would mandate the U.S. Treasury to create secure Bitcoin vaults and purchase 1 million Bitcoin units. Bitcoin units, equivalent to 5% of the total supply. So, Mechanic, you're totally against this, right?
Yeah, I think Francis nailed it when he said, I'm interested in Bitcoin's ability to bankrupt governments, not to bail them out.
Yes.
So I think I agree with that. Lummis isn't bad, I think. She seems like kind of all got her heart in a decent place. It's Trump, the one I really disagree with. Like, the idea of bringing mining, he says, I want to bring all mining to America, right? Which to me is like that's the exact opposite of what you want. You don't regulated North American miners are we're already a blight on the whole ecosystem. The most centralized aspect of mining at the moment is the hardware, because it's all manufactured in China. And then the second most centralized aspect of it is that so much mining is happening in North America and it's all completely regulated. So like Trump coming in and wanting to do more of that, to me is just a disaster. And then RFK a year ago said the same thing. Like, I want to make sure all Americans can run a Bitcoin node, and I wanted to enshrine it into law. And I'm like, do you psychos want the American government defining what a Bitcoin node is? Because I can't think of anything worse. And the same with mining. I don't want I already don't think miners are miners. They're just hashers. They're not making templates and they're not taking custody of what comes out the chain. That's a fail. That's not mining. That's just hashing. And I don't want the US government getting involved in the definition of that. The Canadian government already did, and they've said you have to pay double the tax if you do those other two things. You only get half the tax rate if you agree to let someone else take custody of everything coming out of the chain and you don't make templates. So the Canadian government is literally giving you a 50% tax break if you refuse to be a sovereign miner. And all the other ones that are addicted to the money printing version of Bitcoin mining, yeah, it's horrible, man. You have to pay sales tax on all mined Bitcoin in Canada unless you use the product that Foundry offers, where they will just rent your hash rate, and then you're not a Bitcoin miner anymore. But you don't have any sovereignty. You can't interact directly with the blockchain anymore. And
what a
that's like the most evil kind of regulation governments can do, because it means you end up with one pool. That's it.
Yeah.
And that pool is the one that like
talk about regulatory capture. Of
right.
Just like,
so in the last 6 months, 131 unique addresses have received all newly created Bitcoins. And 71 of those were people getting paid out by Ocean, by the way. So we're responsible for more than half of it with our tiny size. And this is because miners literally can't take custody from what comes out of the chain. They don't want it because then they have to pay more tax. So like, and when Donald Trump is up there saying, I want to bring Bitcoin activities and celebrate this crypto industry, I'm like, anyone cheering this is just completely missing the point, right? I would rather have Vladimir Putin up here, torpedo the whole thing, make the difficulty plummet down like 70%, and then all the pleb miners running, S9s in their garage are profitable again. And Bitcoin's more resilient. Like everything about that is good. And no one would ever voluntarily ask for it. But it's just, that is my take on the entire like state hostility versus, friends in, fake friends, wolves in sheep's clothing versus like proper libertarians that would leave us alone. Like I'd vote for Ron Paul saying I'd get rid of capital gains tax on Bitcoin. Fine, I'll vote for that. But I'm not voting for like, let's bring Bitcoin mining to America. No way.
So is this all just your way to say you're voting for Kamala?
Well, I'm not an American, so I think.
That's right.
But they do have my name, so I imagine I'll be voting for Kamala 7 or 8 times in various states, regardless. Right? I'm probably registered Republican in about 4 states at this point. Sorry, Democrat. Yeah, I think that's pretty likely.
Steve, I feel like you have something to say. I feel like you have something to say on that one.
Well, I had a lot of things to say, but I know Mechanic's got to go. I thought of something that might help. If you haven't thought of this analogy, I know like explaining the difference between FPPS and like the full payouts that you do is difficult. But when I was thinking about it, it occurred to me it's kind of like the Bitcoin price versus fiat dollars. Like fiat dollars are pretty stable, but you're guaranteed to lose money. Whereas Bitcoin is more volatile, but like in the long term, you end up getting more money. Have you used that analogy before? I think it kind of works for the FPPS thing, right?
Oh, it does. There's a lot of beautiful analogies for the comparison.
Okay.
But have you ever had someone just be like, hey, I know market dynamics really well. I'll trade on your behalf and I'll give you like 10% of all the profit I make. Like, right. Like that to me, it's basically that. Someone's saying, I'm going to go to the blockchain and get a bunch of Bitcoin out of it. I'll probably get this much from it because it's unpredictable, right? Blocks are unpredictable. Transaction fees are unpredictable. But some company is saying, don't worry, I'll pay you no matter what. So you as a miner, you don't even have to worry about it, right? You're going to make 8 million sats a day or whatever. Like you'll just get that no matter what. Anyone that would offer you that product is either going to go out of business or charge you an unbelievably big hidden commission to the point where you don't realize they're charging it. So it's like the airport currency exchanges that tell you 0% commission, even though it's like £1 gives you 80 cents, or you sell a pound and you sell a pound for 80 cents, or you buy dollars and get like $1.20. Sorry, the opposite way around. But the spread is huge, but they tell you it's 0%. So FPPS is just like, it's free lunch fallacy, ridiculous notion that you could ever do that. So our payout scheme doesn't do that. It says to miners, look, man, the Bitcoin blockchain is random. We have no idea what's coming out of it. Of course, we're not going to make any promises to you about what you'll get. If we find no blocks, you won't just get a little bit. You'll get literally nothing. But if we do find a block and you're 50% of the pool, you get 50% of the entire block. And we thought, this will probably outperform the other pools. And then it did more than 10%, despite us being really unlucky. And we were like, okay, this is crazy. Like we are overpaying extremely.
This episode is brought to you by Ocean Mining.
Yes.
You should mine with Ocean.
Yes, you should. Unless you can't wait 24 hours.
They're basically capitalizing on the fact that everybody is leveraged and nobody's fiscally responsible, and that cash flow is a huge part of, you've got, like you were saying before, there's a bunch of fiat degens like jumping into mining. And so if you don't have the cash flow to make it through, a month of no revenue, then you're, you don't have the cushion to make it through a month of no revenue.
Yeah, right.
I think it's just a financialized Bitcoin for people who can only survive in a financialized world. That
Yeah.
they think that the whole idea is to get rid of risk, to hide it, to get rid of volatility. Like it's you grow bitches, you grow little bitches in a market where if there's a 3% downturn, everything goes into chaos and everybody's freaking out and nobody knows what to do, and we bail out hundreds of billions of dollars in a matter of hours, versus people who grow up in Bitcoin as like market chads who, scoff at 60% crashes and they're like, yeah, okay, I'll buy a little bit more. But yeah, be a Bitcoiner.
Be a Bitcoiner.
Blocks are a probability, bitch.
You're right about the cash flow point, Jeff, because that's it. Like minus, I'm fine presenting it as a trade-off, right? Ocean has way worse cash flow because, like I said, no blocks equals no money, but that's traded off with you get more revenue overall. The alternative thing though was never understood to be a trade-off. It was just presented as, we'll solve your cash flow and we'll still maximize your revenue. Don't worry, we'll pay you like everything minus 2%, and that will be like the pretend fee. And everyone's like, what's Ocean's fee versus Foundry's fee? And I'm like, dude, we could charge you a 10% fee and still pay more than what Foundry are giving you, because the fee isn't the fee. That's the 0% commission sign again that isn't going to give you any indication. Like if you look at like the international currency conversion rates of pounds to dollars, like you're not going to get that if you go to a 0% commission place in an airport. You're not, like, it's going to be like 12% worse than that. But they just don't call that a commission. That's all. So like, I'm like, this is really annoying because now I have to undercut. When I'm selling this product to you, I have to charge you less of a fee, even though I could charge you triple the fee and still come out better. Anyway, I'm going to transition to my phone while I drive because I don't know.
Oh, you're going to stick? Cool. You're going to stick with us? Okay.
Yeah, because
wait, are we good to go? I'm happy to close it out if people need to go. We need to shut down the roundtable session. We've had a fantastic session so far, and I was just going to kind of go through the rest of the list just for the sake of news items, and they would miss our wonderful, in-depth, and super knowledgeable opinions about these things, but they could at least still get the news. But if you guys want to stick with it for a little bit, I'm up for that too. What do we got? We got to vote. This is democracy because democracy works.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere, but you might have some trouble switching to your phone. They wouldn't even let me switch back to the microphone. I realized my audio issues was because like my actual mic wasn't working and I'm talking into the laptop mic. And then when I tried to switch it back to my good mic, it said switching mics not allowed during recording.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
I'm on the world's least reliable thing ever, which is Firefox on Graphene OS. If this works,
nice.
I'll be amazed. Oh, it wants me to download an app. All right, that's it. I'm leaving and never coming back as a result.
We're done. First and last episode of the Roundtable, guys. I really appreciate it. Fucking download an app.
I do genuinely have to go. So thanks for having us. I would like to do it again. Dude. It was a lot of fun. See you soon, guys.
Man. Yeah,
okay, man. Appreciate it, dude. This is the Swan Bitcoin app, and this is how easy it is to just buy Bitcoin whenever you're feeling like it. And I feel like it right now. And as it shows me right here, I still have $9,388 worth of my $10,000 of Bitcoin buying that has no fees whatsoever. And now I have $10 more worth of Bitcoin. I do this quite often. One of the really great things about Swan is the incredible number of resources they have for learning and understanding anything that you want to know about Bitcoin. And importantly, they're going to teach you why you should not trade. They're not going to encourage you to trade. They are Bitcoin only. If you're looking for an easy and reliable way to get into Bitcoin, if you're looking to put Bitcoin in your IRA, if you're looking to put Bitcoin in your business, if you're looking to do anything around getting on a Bitcoin standard or getting exposed to Bitcoin in your portfolio, check out swanbitcoin.com/guy is my special link, and you will find it very conveniently right in the show notes. All right.
So we're going to finish the list?
Let's
what are we doing?
Yeah, let's do rapid fire. Let's do rapid fire. Everybody gets 10 seconds on these things so we can close this out. All right. So Federal Reserve is going to cut rates by 0.75% with 3 reductions this year. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Fiat printers go burr.
There you go. Steve?
I was glad to hear Lynn Alden say that people make such a big deal out of these tiny rate cuts. I'm glad you said that, because I just think it's so stupid. It's like watching grass grow with a microscope. It's like, who cares?
It's like a placebo effect. It's like a placebo effect. Is that like the rate itself doesn't matter? It's whether or not people think, because, Bitcoin jumped on this news. Like the market jumped, like everything's just reacted to it. It's like, oh, well, if they just think we're going to be loose, everything will act as if we are super loose on the monetary policy, and we can just kind of like fluff this along for, another 6 months to a year. It's the fiat game, man. It's all just fake on top of fake. All right. Let's see. IMF, in its quest to save the planet, IMF has suggested an 85% increase in electricity and electricity tax for Bitcoin miners.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that either.
Yeah. I was really hoping we could get a mechanic's view on that, being the miner in the room.
Honestly,
the miner who doesn't mine and thinks mining is it's a terrible thing.
If they did an 80, wait, say it again, 85% tax on the energy used for
energy
mining?
tax. Yeah, so their costs for energy are 85% higher if you're Bitcoin mining.
I mean, go for it. Then all mining would be covert, and then whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My immediate thought is, when does the IMF taxes somebody? Like, who does the IMF tax? They're
recommending
bank.
it. They're just saying, please do this. I don't know.
I'm surprised that, like, that point about how when you're saying something like this, you're just saying that the thing that's consuming energy is bad. Like, why aren't they taxing curling irons and hair dryers and washing machines and like all the other stuff we use?
And porn websites and
porn servers for sure.
The dark corners of Craigslist and 4chan.
Yeah, I know a lot of these topics are hard, but this one seems like I thought would have caught on, that people, it would have sank in. That's like, in order to say don't use energy, you have to make a convincing case that that thing is bad.
Yeah.
So like, where's your case that Bitcoin is bad, and before you even try to like tax the energy or something?
I think they just have the default assumption that, like, because people don't understand it, if they can just say that it uses a lot of energy, then like that means it's bad, because they don't have any other reference for it. It's like, well, Bitcoin's just a thing, and now, and it uses a lot of energy. It's like, oh, well, it's bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
I guess so.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to end up with some kind of friendly, kind of muddy policy on toward Bitcoin in the U.S., and that may be not great, but that I don't think that any sort of tax like that is ever going to be like a thing. So.
Isn't it hilarious? Do y'all remember like 5 years ago or 10 years ago when the idea of Bitcoin being like a thing that presidents was talking about was just a joke? And then it felt that way for a long time. And then it just like happened like immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I thought like last year I would have thought like that's miles
like a light
away.
Switch.
And now it's like here.
Yeah,
it's just like bam.
It was wild. Yeah. Like the turnaround on some of this stuff is like nuts, especially with like ETFs. Like everything was like a joke, like the whole framing and everything. It was still just like this thing that you didn't touch. And then like ETFs launched and it was like stories totally different. Everything, the perception, how people talk about it.
It was kind of like Kamala's campaign. Like Biden is sharp as a tack, and then suddenly he's gone.
Everybody loves Kamala.
and everybody loves Kamala. It's like the media is retarded.
I guess it is the ETF that kind of flipped the switch.
Probably. All the banks are suddenly behind it, and so the media is behind it.
Yeah. Did you hear that Robinhood suspended trading because of global market turmoil? And so this thing that I was reading said that they have to manage risk and comply with financial regulations. So this is why we have to suspend. And they said that the service allows users to manage both Bitcoin and traditional currencies in one account. And all I could think is that nobody has any Bitcoin on Robinhood because you can't withdraw it. So they don't let anybody manage anything. But yeah, that's barely news. Just normal fiat shitty company stuff.
That was the whole Japan carry trade thing, right?
Yeah, probably.
I think the phrase carry trade is funny. I think of like a briefcase, like you're carrying around a trade in your briefcase.
Just in case you need to hand it off to somebody at any particular
carry it
moment,
around. Just carry your trade around.
Yeah. In particular, if I carry my trade around in a briefcase, I always use handcuffs to make sure that nobody can steal my carry trade.
Mainnet, they just chop the guy's arm off.
Oh God, maybe I should just let him take my trade. So mainnet release of Taproot assets on Lightning. With Taproot assets, users can make instant low-fee asset transfers, bringing trillions of stablecoin volume to Bitcoin. I would really love to. I'm going to channel Bitcoin Mechanic right now, and I'm going to say that this is all just shitcoins, and this is all just Ethereum people coming to Bitcoin and then trying to put it on top of Lightning, and it's terrible. And I think it should all be banned and made illegal, and then Bitcoin would be better. That's what I think Bitcoin Mechanic would say.
Honestly, I kind of think.
Give me shit about it next time if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're probably right. But I kind of think that Tether operating in Lightning is a good thing. I could be wrong. I don't know. I go back and forth. Like,
I think it's double-edged. I think there are good things and there are bad things about it. And I've been trying to build a guy's take actually on this because we've been talking about the Bitcoin dollar stuff for a while on the show with Chain of Custody, Mark Goodwin, and Whitney Webb stuff. And I just did, in fact, it probably published today, I think. I just did their latest read on Trump embraces the Bitcoin dollar. And I totally think it's a double-edged sword. I think there are really bad things about doing that on top of Bitcoin and on top of Lightning. But then I also think that there are really good things. And there are good elements about having stable coins because it means the liquidity, the peer-to-peer and kind of like global infrastructure liquidity between Bitcoin and dollars will increase dramatically. Like the ability for inflows and outflows to happen like that, I think it's kind of like the banking collapses in the era of APIs is that like just overnight, in the middle of the night, you can have $100 billion move. Now imagine if everybody's using stable coins, like stable coins become normalized.
If even the banks, because the idea is that, the banks are going to be able to hold, like this, one of the pieces of legislation that Saylor and other people have been talking about is that banks are going to be able to hold Bitcoin. And if that gets through, at the end of this year, the first of next year, then that's, a big thing for Bitcoin, but it means that the banks are going to be using Lightning and Bitcoin rails to move money. And if enough money moves into, dollars on Bitcoin rails, then the whole system is going to be that is the infrastructure inversion, right? Like that is the, cable, like that is like cable internet flips telephone companies, thing for the financial system. And so I don't know, like as long as we can keep devs and stuff working on, things like silent payments, things like improving Bitcoin fungibility and improving all this stuff and not get distracted by all the fucking bullshit shitcoin stuff,
basically as long as we don't financialize Bitcoin development, as long as that's not the outcome.
Well, and we still need to, we still need people like Mechanic and Luke and whoever, like working on helping people like be sovereign miners or whatever. But if things, I like the Bitaxe, like that's one of the news things. That's like, I've seen a bunch of people posting about that. I think that's cool. I kind of want to get one just to have, something plugged in and, just to have it, solo mine, whatever. I don't know how much it costs, but whatever. If it's,
I had going back to the Taproot assets thing. Well, the interesting part of that is, how there's this kind of dynamic where there's Bolt 14, like Mechanic said, like Bolt 25, and you have Core Lightning, LND, Async, whatever. You have all these parties, and they sort of agree on a common spec and sort of don't. Like, I'm really curious how this is going to play out because imagine that like Taproot Assets becomes popular or something, and then they're like, oh, actually, we need like to add a feature to the protocol, and then Core Lightning doesn't like that feature, but then Taproot Assets has like a lot of money in it, and then they just kind of like push the changes they want onto these protocols. It's a very, I don't see, like Michael Saylor talks about this a lot, and I wanted to get mechanics view on it, but layer 2 it's something in between the common park, the common grounds thing, and the entrepreneurial thing. You know, I like the analogy of just Bitcoin just being a park. Don't poop in the park. Like, this isn't a private property thing. But as soon as you go to layer 2, it's like, is this a private property thing? Like,
like with
is
Bolt
layer
12
2 an entrepreneurial thing?
With Bolt 12, it's like left up to wallets to like implement it, right? So if we can get enough like support for it, then we can use Bolt 12, right? So maybe, you know, that is enough. And if there are things that are good, you know, we'll see lots of support for them. And if somebody builds bullshit, then nobody will care and they'll do it in their little corner.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Speaking of, just on the Bitaxe news is finds the 290th solo block on the solo CK pool with a Bitaxe. Somebody totally got the lottery with a Bitaxe and found himself a block, and that's pretty baller. It does make me a little bit want a Bitaxe, just to have one.
What's a solo CK pool?
That's apparently a pool that a bunch of people use for solo mining.
And it's found 290
wait, that doesn't make any
blocks?
sense.
How old? Yeah, it does, because you need somebody to construct the template for you.
Okay, yeah.
But, I mean, you could construct the template yourself, but probably wouldn't do a good job at it. But 290 blocks? How long has this pool been around?
I do not know. I feel like it's been around though. Like,
that's a lot of solo blocks. Like,
yeah, dude. Oh, I got an extra bracket here. I can't click on it. 1 second.
Maybe they actually have a ton of combined hash power, because there's a lot of people that want to go solo.
Oh, it's just a mempool link. Yeah, no. So I don't have any details on CK pool. I might have to check that out.
Okay.
And we should keep in mind that thing about the Taproot Assets and the park analogy and layer 2, because I'm curious about mechanics thoughts too. We should bring that up next time. I'll have my AI listen to this and remind me. Mutiny Wallet shuts down. That sucks. Quote, our company's exploring alternative products. We'll be shutting down the wallet at the end of the year, but you can still self-host. That was shit.
Dude, it's like I said in our chat, it's easy for a bar to accept Bitcoin via Lightning. All they have to do is change their wallet every 2 weeks. It's easy.
Dude.
Were you using Mutiny?
Hard.
I mean, Mutiny was the one that I was going to go to, because that was kind of easy to set up with Fediments and stuff. I mean, now you can do. It's just like, I got no hope that whatever I use is going to be around in 6 months. You know,
I'm going to be using Albi.
Albi
has been doing amazing. And Albi Hub and stuff is great. I'm going to kind of shift a lot of my stuff that direction. And just really explore, because I had a fantastic setup with Phoenix and then my BTC Pay, like going back and forth between. Like, Phoenix was kind of my front facing and BTC Pay was kind of the back end and where I would dump Bitcoin and stuff. And then Phoenix left the US and I was just like, shit, I can't recommend this anymore. Like, I mean, I can still use it, but I can't give it to somebody, you know?
Cool news for Phoenix, even though they're not here anymore, is that they added Bolt 12 support. So,
yes, that's pretty baller.
I don't think that's on the list, is it?
Just pisses me off. Pisses me off. But Phoenix added Bolt 12. Yeah.
So you got the public park layer 2 wallets, Lightning wallets. They're like the hot dog stand that like just pulls up to the park and then it leaves, and maybe it's there, maybe it's not. It's like all these little businesses around the park. You know, the park's going to be there forever. They have no idea about
this other shit.
Where's my hot dog place? I love those. They're the best hot dogs in the whole park.
I wish the community funded hot dog place.
There's a handful of things about Aqua Wallet that I wish, you know, like I wish they would add like a lock screen and, you know, like some other features, but I feel like that one, Yeah, like it's a super easy one to direct people to, and it doesn't have the problem of like, lightning balances getting, like
Your channels got closed.
Channels getting closed or whatever. Yeah. So
it's not the best from like a handful of like really like serious kind of, your own, like, because it's a liquid balance that shifts in and out of lightning. But it's really stable. It's the cost, the fees are kind of expected, like there's not any like crazy volatility or variance in it. You don't have to open and close or splice channels randomly where it's like, oh, every fee was 10 sats, 10 sats, 10 sats, 2000 sats. Why the hell did that happen? Aqua's a great one to recommend right now. That's kind of been my go-to.
Yeah, hopefully it'll stick around.
Yeah. We're actually getting to the end of this list here. ARK to donate. This is ARK Invest, not like ARK Labs. ARK Invest to donate a fixed percentage. This is Kathy. Kathy. Oh my God, I forgot her name. But they are donating a fixed percentage of their revenue to open source contributors through OpenSats. Human Rights Foundation and Brink and OpenSats. And that's pretty crazy. So not profit. They're not donating a percentage of their profit. They're donating a percentage of their revenue to open source development. So that's pretty cool. That was.
I don't have anything against open source development. Like I think it's cool and like funding it or whatever. But I can't help but notice that like the greatest open source things are done by people without funding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
it's people who want to solve their own problems.
Like, yeah, it's kind of like people that are just writing code because they're getting paid to write code. Like they never write anything great, and I know, but I mean, it still helps. I mean, I don't want these coders that don't have any money to not get paid, but the great stuff's never really written by the paid coder, like ever.
Yeah,
I just can't help but notice that.
Have you ever read the book For Fun and for Profit?
No, it sounds like a book I'd love, though.
Yeah, it's literally about open source history, development, like just like kind of like looking through the open source community and history and like what is, and that was one of the things is that like 95% of projects or whatever, even huge projects, are literally maintained, and basically all of the work is done by like one dude, almost always.
Yeah,
like
it's a different motivation. It's a different, yeah.
And there's usually like a shit ton of people who dance around the project and contribute a little bit and then leave. And most of sometimes it's like a help, but most of the time it's just like people who ask questions and like need support. So it's just like more work for the maintainer to have a community around him, because it's just people badgering the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Fedi also launched at fediX.xyz. So they are out of alpha, beta, whatever. Which I haven't figured out how to launch my own community without, like, they have like a thing that they're letting you do it through them, like a waitlist thing. But you can do it yourself if you're like self-hosting or whatever. And I wanted to really just kind of like set one up for maybe the Audionauts and just kind of like explore and see what's going on. But that's pretty exciting. Thoughts on Fedi and federated eCash and all that good stuff?
It's good stuff. I mean, I think the combination of, liquid Fedimints and, having all this stuff networked via Lightning is going to be a huge privacy improvement, and a huge, like it's really unlocking like the ability to do, it's, we could bring back darknet markets and all sorts of things. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I can't wait for it to unfold. I'm not as early of adopter as I used to be. When I think about it, I've never really been an early adopter of technologies just for the sake of technology. I mean, with Bitcoin, this is like world changing philosophical movement, so I'm going to early adopt that. But I'm not really that techie, nerdy, geeky, like overall. I just kind of like
I am
get into something when it's like going to be really important. So I mean, it's like, if I don't know if something's going to be around in 2 months, like I have a hard time making myself do it.
Yeah.
But I am super excited.
It's hard to deliver time to allocate time to shit, like without a doubt, just because there's always a million things.
Right.
But that's part of why I like the show is it forces me to do that. So I just kind of explore things for the sake of saving other people the time if it's not that great, or if we don't even know if it is going to become a thing.
Maybe this show will make me get more into that stuff.
That's my whole goal. This is actually my secret underlying mission, is to just get Simple Steve to install shit on his computer.
Complicated Steve.
Complicate. I'm trying to complicate Simple Steve.
Can't complicate Simple Steve.
University of Wyoming launches a Bitcoin Research Institute. So it's basically an academic institute dedicated to Bitcoin research, producing peer-reviewed publications about Bitcoin from all academic disciplines. The institute plans to address fundamental questions about money and digital currency. I mean, that's part of me says that sounds great, but I don't know what to say. I have such a disdain for academia that I just don't know. I don't know if I think of that as a good thing. Like, is that an attempt to make academia better? Is that going to improve academia, or is this just Bitcoin? Now we're going to have the academia version of Bitcoin, which sounds horrible. It sounds like I want to throw up.
I think it's the latter. One of those ETH people I was accidentally arguing with said that she took a Bitcoin class. Really said that she took a Bitcoin class that was taught by a Bitcoin Core contributor. And I'm like, look, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You really still don't understand this, but like, I don't know. Like it's so bad. It's so bad. I don't like, universities are just cancer. Like the whole system is cancer.
Yeah.
I am an academic. I did the PhD postdoc thing, and like I wanted to be a professor for a long time, and it's really hard for me to just kind of let go of the idea. I mean, that would have been my dream to be like a Bitcoin professor, just like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's really hard for me to just accept the fact that university just sucks. There's still a part of me that just wants
in your heart of hearts that it's true.
I just want to wear that tweed jacket with like the elbow pad and just like just walk around the university and just daydream about
with my briefcase, carrying my trade around.
My carry trade. I still kind of have that dream, but my politics are just not going to be right to ever have a university job.
Dude, the girl that I'm dating right now has a PhD in computer science from the University of Montreal, and she's like, no, all the people here is stupid. she's like, I was like, said something like, yeah, but you have a PhD. So she's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, she's like, all these people are retarded
too.
Like, I saw a lot of people getting PhDs too.
They've all got purple hair and, whatever. I guess that's not necessarily the worst, part of it is the hair color could be, a distraction, but there's a high correlation.
Yeah, there are 2 items here that really sound like fiat stuff. So we're going to just skip those. And there are 2 more.
List?
This is, I've been saving stuff, but I have to agree, like, after we started getting into it, is that, like,
Fold.
This isn't a fiat. This isn't a fiat thing.
Fold went public. That's a fiat thing, sort of, but I like Fold.
That was going to be the last thing. Fold's not a fiat thing. Fold's been...
Well, going
Bitcoin
public is a little bit of...
Okay,
I got
a question about Fold.
Yeah.
So I think I need to get back into it because I didn't know that they offered the routing number, checking account number, and so that you could like pay your rent via that. Do you actually get rewards if you go that method, like through the bank draft?
So they, for the longest time, they did not. And it's because they don't make any money off of it. The reason they have the debit card rewards is because most companies and banks get debit card fees. And that's how they make their money on the payment side of things. And so they are just pushing all those fees basically to the user and then making money just off the subscription. So they're basically just like you can have as much as you want, and then we just have stable subscription. So you can get $20 out of the fees if you're using the debit card enough. Totally fine. However, and especially with like gift cards, they've started limited rewards with ACH. Like it's not every single transaction, and it's like not a lot, but they apparently are making enough capital that they're like, okay, we can actually afford to do this and push a little bit more and reward people for ACH stuff as well. I just got that notification like a week ago or something in my email. I haven't done it yet, so I don't know.
A credit card. I really need
they do need a credit card, but honestly, Fold has just been like everything's like slow, gradual growth. But dude, the number of things they now have, the roundups that I have always wanted. You can buy and sell Bitcoin inside of it. You have the rewards that you get. Like I still do the gift cards constantly. Amazon.
You just like that wheel.
I just like
you just like spinning that wheel. Just admit it. That's the only reason you like it.
No, that's not the wheel. Oh, don't say it. Don't bring it up.
Reminds you of Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's my gamble, man. I'm not a degenerate. I don't want to. It's not about the spins. It's not about the spins. I swear to God.
I want $100. I want $100 from the wheel at Bit Black Boom. I was so excited about that,
dude. I won back in the day when they were like doing like for real rewards, and they were like even on the spin they had get your 100% back. I got the 100% back on my plane ticket to Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
For real. It was legit. I was like, oh snap. I just got a free trip to a Bitcoin conference thanks to Fold. But yeah, I'm super jazzed about them. That Fold has been my main ever since I've never stopped Fold. I withdrew like a couple years ago. And what do I got right now? Yeah, I have 6.7 million sats in rewards. So like $4,300. And like it's still because I use
that's great.
Just gift cards anytime I can. I get the normal rewards, I get the spins. If you just use this for everything, it adds up quick, man. But
I need to get back on that.
I'm proud of them, man. That's fucking cool that they're going public. I mean, public company is usually like, like new interest and new people now saying what you can and can't do. But just in regards to the success of the company and the fact that like they've gotten this far and they've been holding Bitcoin since the beginning. They just accepted Bitcoin for Starbucks gift cards, and I used them way back then. That's awesome. So kudos.
He said on what Bitcoin did that they've got like 1,000 Bitcoin treasury. So yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Are they still in Durham? Were they?
Were they?
I didn't know that.
Oh, no way. I'm confused. I'm thinking of Lolly.
Oh, Lolly. Okay. That's right. Yeah, Lolly was in town. Lolly was in the Triangle area. Well, I think we really hit it. I think we did it, guys. I think we concluded our first roundtable. And I'm really glad that Mechanic had to leave because
I only yawned
he
like
was my
3 times.
least favorite. He was my least favorite of the group.
I had a bunch of questions for Mechanic, but I have to ask that next time.
Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it for roundtable number 2. Dude, thank you guys. This was an absolute blast. I would love to keep doing this. I think this is a fun format to just like kind of riff on all the news items. And I usually have an ulterior motive with all of my shows is that it forces me to keep up with something, and this forces me to stay up on the news and actually talk about the news because typically that's not my show. And I don't want to make the whole show about news, but this gives me it removes my guilt from someone being like, I didn't even know about this thing that happened 2 weeks ago because you didn't talk about that shit on the show. You just did another read on Austrian economics. It's like, well, you should have listened to the roundtable. Okay.
Yeah, I have a similar view. It's like I don't really like the news, but I do feel sort of a responsibility for like new people when they kind of ask me about something. Like it's and so I like that. This will give me a reason to keep like one eye, half of one eye, like an eighth, a tenth of an eye on the news.
Eighth, a tenth of an eye. That's all this needs.
That's all it requires.
If you do an eighth is too much. Too much.
Okay.
Dial it back a little bit, Steve. Come on. Keep it simple. All right. Well, I will keep dropping news items and anything, guys, that you find that you think is newsworthy that we want to cover. Just drop it in the Keep Room. We will leave that open. And thank you for joining me. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and just shout out where people can follow you, find you. And then Steve, why don't you follow it up there?
Noster. I don't really have anything
Noster,
else.
I do. What's your InPub? Can you read that off real quick?
Yeah. No. Jeff Swan and or at Agorist View.
Agorist.
Agorist is AGORIST. Agorist View.
Simple so, Steve, are you on Are you Noster much? I don't think I saw you.
Yeah, I was on Noster. I like deleted the Damus app when like the transition from test flight to mainnet, and I haven't gotten it back yet. But I am gonna get back on Noster again if I can find my keys. And yeah, it's
way more chill than the other social medias.
Yeah, I'm looking. I liked it when I was on it. I just need to get back. But yeah, I'm Steve Simple on Twitter.
Yeah. Noster is like the Raleigh Bitcoin meetup of social medias, like it's just like, it's a solid crew and you just want to be there. You just want to be there and hang out with people.
But you need to follow, for anybody that's joining, you need to follow at least 200 or 300 people because it feels dead. It feels like there's nobody there until you follow enough people. It's not like Twitter. Like you're not going to have anything.
They're not going to push stuff in front of you, right? If you're not following somebody. That's
and you can follow hashtags. You can follow hashtags. So if you put in, like there's a little bit, people spam the hashtags a little bit, but if you put in hashtags and follow those, then that's a good way to find people to follow too. So
yeah. Amen. That's good advice. Good advice. Follow a lot of people on Noster when you get up there, and you'll have a much better time.
Can I just follow everyone that somebody else is following?
Yes, you can. Yes, there's literally a button for that. Like, so if you just want to like jump up and like follow everybody I'm following or everybody's Jeff's following or something, you can just start there and then just eliminate when you realize that one of these guys is a total moron.
I think that's the quickest way to do it.
Like, what is Jeff? Just my opinion of Jeff has dropped quite a bit because he follows this dude. Then you just knock that one out and then you curate from there. All right, guys. Thank y'all for joining me. This is the first roundtable. We are out.
That was fun.
Catch you next time, guys.
See you later.
And we will be back next month with another roundtable discussion of all of the major news and events that have happened. If you have anything that you want me to cover, this will be a perfect example of perfect opportunity to tag me on Noster, tag me on Twitter, whatever your social platform of choice is, and I will try to keep up on that. I collect news and events and we share it in the room, and we'll be able to discuss it and get in details as we go throughout the month. So anything that you think, I would love to get your take on this, or I'd love to get Mechanics or Steve's or Jeff's take on this, please shout it out. Let me know. It will help in all of the back end work to keep this show up to date and pull our research together. So I really appreciate it. I really hope you enjoyed this discussion and you like this format, because I want to keep doing it and I think it's a ton of fun and I love getting everybody together. These are all friends of mine, obviously. And I really do think this will have a lot of specific knowledge and perspective on these events and how they play into things. I'm excited about Guys Roundtable. I hope you are too. A shout out to CoinKite for supporting this show. It wouldn't be possible without all of you, without CoinKite, without all of you who use my affiliate codes to help out with the services and stuff that I use, who support me on Fountain with value for value and streaming sats, who send me boosts, who zap me on Noster, you name it. Your support is what keeps this show running and makes me know that it gives me a reason for doing this. Thank you guys so much for listening, so much for subscribing and sharing it out. That's also another fantastic way that you can support the show. Just share it out with the people you know that you think will get value out of this, especially this new series. So thank you all, and I will catch you on the next episode. And until then, everybody, take it easy, guys.